Looking at these two steering wheels, you have to really look hard to see a difference. One of them is the original MOZA GS steering wheel, and the other is the second iteration, the upgraded GS V2. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the GS V2 wheel and see what's changed and what's been upgraded. MOZA Racing are recently off the back of the much upgraded RS V2 wheel. That wheel featured an all-new design with upgrades across the board. Now, MOZA has announced their latest V2 steering wheel, and it's an upgrade of the second steering wheel the company ever produced. The GS V2 Formula wheel is an upgraded version of the original GS wheel, but unlike the RS V2, the GS V2 looks an awful lot like the original wheel. So what's new? The MOZA GS V2 wheel is a very minor evolution of the original wheel. That wheel really impressed me when it was announced with its Formula style design, and it's the wheel that's possibly responsible for really putting MOZA Racing on the map, along with their launch of the R9 wheelbase. MOZA has obviously realised the popularity of this Formula style sim racing wheel, as it's expanding its compatibility with the rest of MOZA's product range. And it's that expanded compatibility that is really the point of this GS V2 wheel, as MOZA hasn't gone to the extent of redesigning or updating the design of the original wheel as it did with the RS V2. And that's probably for the best, because the GS wheel has a really nice design and layout, and it's a lovely looking sim racing wheel. The RS wheel in comparison was in desperate need of a design refresh. The original wheel was released a few years ago in MOZA's infancy as a sim racing brand, and the new design served as the perfect opportunity to bring the wheel up to date and reflect MOZA's current standing in the sim racing space as a grown-up professional brand. But going back to the GS V2 wheel and its design, it's got a width of 300mm across, which is ever so slightly wider than a lot of other Formula style wheels on the market, but it does feel great to use, and the added width almost adds a little to the feeling that you're using a real-world steering wheel. It features a range of inputs including 10 individually LED backlit push buttons, and you can change the colour of each individual button as I've done with my wheel. I like to set my go faster buttons, as I call them, things like DRS and ERS overtake, to green. Then I'll have another colour set for my control buttons, things like the MFD controls, tyre temps, and finally I'll pick out important buttons such as my pit limiter in another colour. There are also 5 front-facing rotary encoders which all feel nice and clicky. Using the included pit house software, you can change the function of these encoders to switch between a rotary encoder and individual switches, which is great in games such as ATC where you have set engine and traction control modes. Although there is still a little work needed on the final quality control, with some of the stickers not quite lining up properly with the indent in the rotary encoder. There are also a couple of thumb encoders which are great for quick adjustments to your brake bias, and each thumb encoder also has a click function. You've also got a couple of joysticks on the front for navigating menus or looking around your car, and the signature MOZA RGB light bar on the top. All of these features are identical to the previous GS wheel. So what's been changed? Well, there are 2 real improvements to this GS V2 wheel, and the first of which is the hand grips. The original GS wheel comes in an Alcantara finish to the hand grips, and while this looks lovely, during use it can wear quite badly, especially if you aren't often racing with gloves on. You really do have to remember to wear protection when racing with the GS wheel. But now, you can opt for a perforated microfiber leather finish on the hand grips, and this is a similar leather finish to the one that's found on the more premium FSR wheel, and this would be my choice. The leather won't wear as badly as the Alcantara, allowing you to use the wheel for longer before you see any signs of wear. Other than the hand grips, the GS V2 steering wheel doesn't look much different from the original wheel, but it does add important compatibility for newer MOZA wheelbases, namely the budget-friendly R5 wheelbase. The R5 was released in early 2022 and served as the perfect entry point for any sim racer looking for a budget direct drive racing wheel. However, it caused a few problems for MOZA, namely compatibility with older steering wheels. Some older steering wheels, such as the original GS wheel, weren't compatible with the technology used in the R5 quick release. This meant if you owned an R5 wheelbase, you wouldn't be able to use some older steering wheels. Now, the GS V2 is completely compatible with the R5 wheelbase, as is the newly upgraded RS V2 steering wheel. This really expands the product lineup for owners of the R5 who have been wanting to get their hands on the original GS. You can see in these comparison shots that the quick release is ever so slightly different than the older GS quick release, and it's this part that's been changed to allow for the extra compatibility. This new and upgraded MOZA GS V2 wheel costs roughly the same as the original. In the US it costs a little bit less than the original wheel did, and in Europe and the UK a little bit more at £469, €499 or $469. So are the improvements worth rebuying the GS V2? Well, deciding whether to buy it really comes down to a few factors. First of all, do you currently own a GS wheel? And secondly, do you own an R5 wheelbase? If you own an R5 wheelbase already and don't own the original GS wheel, then yes, by all means, the GS V2 is a brilliant Formula style steering wheel to sim race with. It's now compatible with every MOZA wheelbase, allowing you to use it with the R5 and other wheelbases if you upgrade in the future. If you don't own an R5 wheelbase, but you do already own the original GS wheel, then there really isn't any incentive to purchase this upgraded version. The new wheel functions in the exact same way as the original does, meaning the added compatibility for a non-R5 wheelbase user isn't a game changer. And finally, if you do not already own the R5 wheelbase or the original GS wheel, then the new GS V2 wheel would be the one to purchase. If you're currently racing with any of MOZA's other wheelbases other than the R5, the original GS wheel would still be compatible, but with the V2, you cover any future compatibility issues if you did opt for an R5 in the future.